What's up everyone and welcome back to the channel. Now let's get into it. DC says it's not wrong for Jon Jones to take shots at Chael Sonnen over legal troubles. Daniel Cormier has had a long and stormy relationship with Jon Jones that has occasionally spilled out into shouting matches and even a physical altercation outside of the cage. The two have no love lost and have been pretty vicious with one another when it came to fighting. At the same time, DC and Chael Sonnen are friends. They're both commentators for the UFC and pundits for the sport of MMA as a whole, who are great on the mic and have a ton of respect for each other. That much is clear. But with recent legal troubles hitting both Sonnen and Jones, both physical altercations that saw police involved in both occasions, both of which took place in hotels in Las Vegas, DC is now saying that it's fair game for Jones to take shots at Sonnen. Jones has been in legal trouble before and has been the butt of jokes for years over these instances. His latest arrest took place in September of last year when he was detained and charged over misdemeanor domestic battery, the charges for which were later dropped. Later, just a few months after this, Sonnen found himself in a similar situation with several charges following a physical altercation in December, with details now emerging that Sonnen allegedly hit a woman, among others, in a confrontation that involved multiple people. Jones took issue with the MMA media and other fighters condemning his actions but staying silent on Sonnen, who now stands accused in a lawsuit of attacking a couple in Las Vegas without provocation. DC, in a recent video on his YouTube channel, states that Jon Jones is not wrong for going after Sonnen. This is what DC said.
So I asked myself, guys, are we adults? Yes, we are, but in this instance, do I think that Jones would act like one? Absolutely not. Is he wrong for not acting like one? Absolutely not.
Do you agree with Cormier here about Jones and Sonnen? Days after Conor McGregor criticizes his skills, Kamaru Usman responds. Last week, Conor McGregor said that when he returns to the octagon from a broken leg injury later this year, he wants to fight welterweight champion Kamaru Usman for the 170-pound strap. Not only does McGregor believe he could beat Usman, but he believes the Nigerian Nightmare is, quote, a jab-happy, sloppy, orthodox wrestler with no submissions. McGregor is no doubt confident in his own skill set and is a master on the microphone. This case is no different, as he looks to coax the #1 pound-for-pound UFC fighter into a potential title fight to see if Usman will even take the bait and respond. Well, a week later, Usman is indeed issuing a response to the Irishman. In an interview with Sky Sports, this is what Usman stated with regards to McGregor.
But you could ask Burns about how my ground and pound is, and you could ask Masvidal about how my sloppy boxing is. You know, at the end of the day, everybody has their opinion. It is what it is. But when you step inside that octagon with me, I have said it. I am the judge, the jury, and the executioner inside that octagon, and I will do as I see fit.
Usman has not lost a single fight since 2013, long before he was in the UFC, and has successfully defended the 170-pound title 5 times. He's set to take on Leon Edwards possibly in July or August of this year, as soon as he heals up from a broken hand injury. What do you think about Usman's response to McGregor? And do you feel the UFC, if all things line up, would actually match these two guys up against one another? Eyewitness says Jorge Masvidal attacked Colby Covington out of nowhere. A first-hand account is now being given by one of the eyewitnesses to the physical altercation that took place outside of a Miami Beach restaurant between Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal. The eyewitness is none other than Bob Menery, who was there with the Nelk Boys and Colby, having dinner after a recent filming of the podcast. Menery, in speaking on the Bradley Martin Raw Talk podcast, relayed what took place after they had dinner and were walking back to their vehicles. This is what Menery stated.
We take like 4 steps this way, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere, it was just like so quick. And I'm looking there and I'm like, what the just happened?
Later, he names Jorge Masvidal as the assailant who ran up on Colby unexpectedly. There was no yelling or shouting before the altercation. Following the encounter, charges were filed against Gamebred, and he did surrender to police 2 days later. He pled not guilty to all the charges and then posted $15,000 bail. Menery talks about how he did not understand or realize how serious the beef between Colby and Masvidal had become, and believes that Masvidal learned about their location through his Instagram story. But what do you think about Bob Menery's statements here about what took place? Don't forget to take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on all the latest fight news. Deiveson Figueiredo claims Brandon Moreno's team is racist. Moreno responds. The fourth fight between Deiveson Figueiredo and former champion Brandon Moreno is now in jeopardy as Figueiredo requested the UFC set up a title fight between him and Kai Kara France. The reason? Figueiredo says it's all on account of a racist social media post from one of Moreno's cornermen, namely UFC bantamweight fighter Marcelo Rojo, who used a monkey head on Figueiredo's body during an Instagram live stream sometime last year. Rojo has since apologized for any insinuations of racism, but Figueiredo is saying he's upset with Moreno's team and wants to fight Kai instead. In response, Moreno is now saying that Figueiredo is using this as a ploy to sidestep any potential fight against him. In a Spanish-language interview for ESPN Deportes, this is what Moreno stated. "It's just stupid. He was playing with his phone, he was streaming live on Instagram, and he was using many filters. It's a shame we don't have the full video because it was a live stream. He didn't save it. He was using filters on everyone. Dana White, my teammates, and he even used a filter on me. He was switching filters and then appears a monkey filter on Figueiredo." And that's true, and someone took a screenshot. We don't know who, and he starts calling Marcelo Rojo a racist. And you know Marcelo, you're not gonna let me lie, he's not a racist. Moreno then goes on to say how he's received assurances from the UFC that he will indeed have a fourth fight against Figueiredo sometime later this year, and said that Figueiredo is simply trying to run away from a beating. What do you think about Moreno's response to Figueiredo about claims of racism? And multiple reports online are citing sources that a middleweight fight is being set up for a UFC Fight Night event on June 18th that's going to pit Julian Marquez against Wellington Turman, two fighters who are riding 2-fight win streaks coming into this bout. The 25-year-old Turman just came off of a second-round armbar finish on Misha Cirkunov at a February 26 Fight Night event. Meanwhile, for the 31-year-old Marquez, it's been almost a year since he stepped into the octagon, having last fought in April 10, 2021, a submission victory over Sam Alvey. What do you think about this matchup? Tell us in the comments down below. Glover Teixeira believes Alex Pereira will show he's ready for the middleweight title fight. Alex Pereira is the only man to have ever knocked out current UFC middleweight champion Israel Adesanya, albeit in kickboxing. The Brazilian has fought and beaten Adesanya twice in kickboxing. After his knockout loss to Pereira in Brazil in 2017, Adesanya shifted his focus entirely to MMA and has gone on a massive run, beating all of his opponents and continuing his undefeated streak to capture the middleweight title. Save for a failed attempt to get the light heavyweight title from Jan Blachowicz, Adesanya has looked downright dominant as champion. So that's why many people are excited that Pereira is coming up the UFC ranks of the 185-pound division and strung along 2 straight wins in the UFC, including a spectacular flying knee knockout in his debut this past November. Pereira is now scheduled to take on number 4 ranked middleweight Sean Strickland, who is being considered as a possible future challenger for the title. This fight is scheduled to take place on July 30th and will be Pereira's 3rd appearance in the octagon. His training partner, light heavyweight champion Glover Teixeira, believes that his fellow countryman Pereira has the goods to challenge for the title right away and is ready to fight Adesanya. In an interview with Ryan Quinn for the Cornerman MMA, this is what Teixeira said.
Just a mature fighter, and I think he's ready to fight Adesanya right now, and if he's the next fight to Sean, then that'll be, and I think it's gonna be a great fight for Alex anyway. But what he wants is to get there, fight.
Strickland himself is no chump and will 100% be ready for a very game and tough Pereira, who could be handed a middleweight title shot with a win over the American, or at least be one massive step closer to a meeting with Adesanya. What do you make of Glover's comments on Pereira? And do you think Pereira will be able to beat Strickland? Today's video was packed with some juicy stories from the fight world. What are your thoughts about what's going on in MMA? Don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel to see more videos just like this. See you next time.